Greetings, friends. Thank you for joining us today for our new moon meeting as we continue our work with the meditation for common good. Today, we bring to the close the work with the Taurus cycle, focusing on the topic, the principle of sharing. Let the will to love remove all obstacles to allow the free flow of life in the microcosm and macrocosm. During the distribution period of the Vesak full moon, we started meditation on this topic, invoking the hierarchical guidance for us to recognize the elements of the unfolding divine plan related to work ahead of us. Through meditation, reflection, and sharing, we've been bringing forward the most resonant recognitions and ideas that today we will bring into our circle the seeds, the most resonant seeds of this sharing, to be magnetized and radiated through the power of group meditation, breathing out those magnetic ideas into the mental field of human consciousness, and thus assisting humanity in its evolutionary path. As always, we start our work with sounding the statement of purpose for our work. Over to you, Birgit.
Thank you, Alexander. Our purpose is to magnetize the ideas of common good, freedom, and brotherhood as the highest values of humanity at this time. We recognize and cherish diversity of perspectives in our group, creating a space capable of invoking, receiving, interpreting, and radiating a higher synthetic vision. We serve as an Asramic outpost, building a group bridge of Buddhic energy. We evoke the soul of humanity. We envision humanity as being the seed that is flowering. We prepare the way for the reappearance of the coming one. We begin our focus today in this new moon meditation. The naming circle unites our hearts across distance as we begin our alignment and bring ourselves fully into our group work. By uniting our hearts in this way, we begin naturally to work telepathically through our group mind. The key to this telepathic work is in the etheric alignment, which creates the group field and allows it to become both a receiving and transmitting agent for higher ideas and energies. We will begin by calling our names into the naming circle, starting with our organizers. As your name is called, please unmute yourself, say your name and where you are calling in from. For example, Birgitte Rasmussen, calling in from Denmark. And as we go through this, let us turn our attention to our hearts and the heart center of the group, gathering today as each one of us calls ourselves into the circle. Alexander.
Hello, my name is Alexander Ilchuk, and I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York, in the United States.
Welcome. Annette.
Hello, I'm Annette Løffler calling in from Denmark.
Welcome. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Ross, and I'm calling from Manchester, Vermont.
Welcome. Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben calling from the Bronx, the mainland part of New York City.
Welcome. Helen.
Hello, I'm Helen Franklin. I'm ringing in from UK near London.
Welcome. Judy.
Hello, this is Judy Harrison. I'm calling in from Brewster, Massachusetts, in the United States.
Welcome. Kathy.
Aloha, I'm Kathy Heller. I'm calling in from Pahoa, Hawaii.
Welcome. Loleta.
Hola, buenas noches. Me llamo Loleta López Cabello y llamo desde Alicante, España.
Welcome. Lynn.
Hello, this is Lynn Green. I'm calling from just outside of Columbus, Ohio, in the US.
Welcome. Thank you, everyone. Now that we are linked together as a group, let us share a few moments in silence to align, forming a triangle between Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity. May our efforts be of the highest vibration in selfless service for our purpose. Over to you, Alexander.
Thank you, Birgit. We start our work today with recollecting the questions that Annette offered us for our group meditation and reflection at the time of the full moon. I will read the questions which you can see on the screen. First, the circulation of energy and love is important. The higher the energy, the more impact it has. How can we help elevate the energy and love so it will flow freely in our meditations. Second question. The will to love can come through as intuition. How do we sharpen our ability to receive intuition? Can we train ourselves to do this, or do we wait to see if it comes naturally? The third question. How do we contact the soul? The mystic's way is to lift up to the soul, but the occult way is to bring the soul down into its personality. The occult way is what is recommended. So, how do we do this? So these are the questions that we've been holding since the time of the full moon. And so now we open the floor to continue our sharing and reflection. So when you're ready to share, please unmute yourself. And I'm reminding us about the community impressions boards, which we can use between our meetings to share further impressions. And I'm putting the link to the community board into the chat. There are several reflections being shared there. Can start to sharing in this last couple of weeks following the full moon and the Arcane School conference. We had several conversations with our coworkers, both online and in person. And in one of the conversation, this recognition came that the higher we get, the deeper we should go. So we cannot go in our meditation just as high as we want. In order to get even higher, we need to root much deeper, be more grounded. And as we stand in that groundedness, we can reach up higher. And in a way, that is our work, to link the higher and the lower. And when I think about what that could mean to go deep, it's a very important question on its own, and it brings to my mind the recognition of being as real as possible in our inspirations and in our idealism. In a way, we can see now from the perspective of the seventh ray that we slowly start getting more and more accustomed to these vibrations. We start recognizing that the idealism of the sixth ray, as much as it's important and beautiful it is, often been lacking and still is lacking this being grounded in the reality of what is around us. And so that is the challenge. That's this highness of our meditation should be based in a way like a triangle. The triangle sits on a horizontal foundation with aspiration to the highest point. But in order to reach safely to that high point, we need to be horizontally really well anchored. And in a way, pyramids, it's a geometrical depiction of this need. And interesting enough that researchers recently, those who's been studying Egyptian pyramids, they discovered and started writing about that under the pyramids themselves, there are structures that go much deeper than the height of actual pyramids. So it's interesting symbol to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. That was very interesting to hear. And I think what you were talking about is also the third questions, that we need to get the higher energy down into the personality before it can be worked out. So that's, and I got an image about the pyramid in the Louvre museum. They have built this glass pyramid that goes down into a gallery in the ground. And it is also important in astrology. Every triangle in the top point has an opposition in a triangle above in the opposite sign. So it brings very many associations. Thank you for that.
Hello, this is Judy. While I have missed some of the discussions, I have sat with these three questions myself in meditation to see what they could evoke from me. And when I looked at the first one, I thought about the fact that in some ways we can't stand any higher than that place with which we have resonance. And so rather than elevate energy, we really need to elevate ourselves. to remove all blockages so that we can expand the resonance that we can assume. Part of it is just ongoing soul work, to really look at our vehicles, to cleanse our vehicles, and to bring ourselves to the highest point or the soul point within ourselves. The next thing I think is when we're in a group, that group can help us to raise our resonance. And if we don't stand there naturally, we certainly can use the elevation of group and group soul to support our own expansion and even thriving, if you will. Not thriving for the personal self, but thriving so that we can become the best vehicle for the energies. I think that's really the reason for raising energy anyway, is not for our personal self, but to be able to, as we say, bring it down to meet the need. I thought about intuition in much the same way. I looked at the mind in terms of concrete mind, mind of soul or soul mind, and then higher mind. And I asked myself, do we know the difference between our own self-talk and when soul is speaking to us before even the level of intuition? Can we begin to discern? How refined is our discernment? Can we expand ourselves as trained observers to also be trained listeners? So I think that we can work with our own system to be in a place where we may receive intuition, but it's not like going from here to there. There are ways of expanding oneself by looking at mind. Do you have enough information within your mind, just concrete information, so that then you can possibly get a higher view? So filling the mind with that kind of stuff while we're working to basically stand and look at what we understand from a soul's perspective, I think is the first way to begin to move into a more intuitive way of looking at things. So it does come naturally at one point, but I think ultimately we work at it. And I guess when I looked at the last question, I read recently in the book that we grow through a series of ascensions or resurrections. And I thought about the idea of bringing energy up or bringing it down. And I don't think either one, I mean, it's how we visualize things, but I guess I see ourselves as expanding into it and looking first at, are we integrated as a personality? Are we at that level where personality and soul are in connection? Then if we are, when we stand, can we breathe as soul? So are we going up or are we going down? I again visualize it as expanding into, becoming more of ourselves, and ourselves ultimately is the full triad. So thank you.
I think part of the deeper aspect, Alexander, is just with the earth making itself, the consciousness of the earth somehow making itself more present in all of our lives, calling us out. And some of it is, I think, the awareness of the earth's needs. And I think there's a communication there that's helping us to ground. as societies, we've gotten so far away from right balance and ecologically speaking and so forth. But I think there's a voice coming out that that many of us hear, and I think that the obvious way probably that we develop is through initiation, and we've all worked on that, if not directly, certainly indirectly in our meditation and study and service. We've with the emphasis on service. Again, I think that's a grounding of the energies that are coming through, a grounding of all the higher energies, soul and intuition. And I think, like when we talk about the third initiation, in the old days, Pisces, sacrifice was considered, not eating or not having sex, but I think as Aquarian beings, sacrifice just means that our little will, our self-interest is lessened as our interest in, as the soul comes through, the monad comes through, our interest turns toward the plan, the divine plans. And I think to me, that's what sacrifice is. If I'm more concerned with that than with every little thing that's going on in my body or my life, and I'm not. It's where my focus is going as much as possible. I think those are some ideas I had as we were going through this through these questions. Thanks, everybody.
I could come and speak to what Judy was sort of bringing to our awareness in that expanding into, in that the will to love is also a practice. And, we can speak to the as if, and we can speak to the intention behind being the soul incarnate. We have had the opportunity to study and learn and know what the predominant characteristics of the soul are. And then it's about taking it into everyday life. And it's about being the soul and practicing being the soul. With anything, I think there is really that conscious intention of demonstrating what the soul would be. It's almost, we hear that old bumper sticker, what would Jesus do? Well, what would your soul do? and I think some of that then brings that higher awareness into being as a habit to some degree. And through that, I think there's a pathway that really is directly associated with the soul. It's this circulatory practice, I think. Yeah.
I would like to say something. I'm not sure that it's totally together, but listening to what people have said, I notice various words seem to resonate with things I've been thinking about and that have come to me. The initiation is one idea there, and resurrection, which I think Judy mentioned, and transfiguration. which seem to be related to what Alexander was speaking of. This whole exercise we seem to be going through, it is about actually making all this stuff we talk about and we read about, making it practical, really making it useful and of service to the common good. And I suspect we all actually find it quite hard. I think it's easier to talk about than it is to do it. It's like the law and healing about harmlessness. It's a lovely word, it sounds beautiful, but by Jiminy, it requires a lot of work and a lot of bringing in the spiritual will. And when Alexander was speaking about this getting down into the lower reaches of the pyramid, I was thinking, I've just been talking with another group about transfiguration, and I think of it looking at it in the healing book. And we have the transmutation, this lifting up of the lower center to its equivalent higher center, and the transformation of bringing that energy down. But the transfiguration involves the two lower centers, say solar plexus and the heart, those two balancing with the soul. So you get, again, you go back to the duality of the linked solar plexus and heart and the soul, and those two working together. And then the transfiguration is when all 3 points suddenly become synthetic and work together, and you've got the highest and the lowest actually functioning at the same time. And I suspect that's what we're trying to look for in transfiguration and in making this work really practical, so that it's a synthesis of these energies. And the other initiation, the transfiguration there being one, was this resurrection. And I find it odd in church how often they refer to Christ rising again. He is risen again. And I asked the vicar why it says again. You know, he rose from the dead. Why again? How many times is he doing this? And the vicar said, "Oh, I don't know." He said, "It's just an expression, isn't it?" And then he started thinking, and he said, "Wait a minute, let me think. What does this word mean in Aramaic and in the languages of the time?" And he's obviously quite versatile with these languages. And he was saying it doesn't actually say he rose. It says he stood up again, and it means standing. And somehow the idea of him standing as a person in his body again seemed to make more sense to me than this idea of a sort of slightly strange rising from the dead. And then I'm just thinking of the word whilst we've been talking together, and this erection, this standing up, this being aligned again, and having that connection between the spirit and the earth and the body and the form aspect. I don't know. There's just something happened there when you were all speaking, and I thought I think I understand the resurrection a little bit better now than I did. So thank you for just letting me circulate those thoughts to try and make this work more yeah, practical and of service. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, all and Helen. And as you were talking, I thought it makes complete sense to me somehow, maybe because I don't know why, but it makes sense that every time we connect with the soul, life comes in. The life, which is light, which is, the living substance, comes into the body, and body lives again. So to me, it's all of a sudden when you were speaking, it was like every time we switch from dead into living, no matter which part of our body or soul, like, no, not really soul, body or any plane which is deadened, every time there's a rising of Christ, because that is him overcoming the principle of matter and shifting into principle of light. So I also thought that when we don't see life, we think things are dead. We don't see life in stones. We think stones are dead. I mean, it's very simplification, but to a certain degree, like when I was a child, I mean, I was told that life goes away from the tree, when in the winter, or when the tree is dry. But the life doesn't. It just doesn't go through that part of matter. But if you cut down, the roots are still working. So many things that we don't see as creating life or living still are. And so by connecting with this living principle again and again and again and again, it's like the same way, like when we're not choosing the soul, when we are going after matter, we crucify again and again and again that principle. It's sort of it's really a big topic, but life visible and invisible, soul visible and invisible, karma, which is the old pattern that doesn't allow a new life through, sustaining, stable, sufficient to a certain degree, but slowly deadening life, which needs to come through. I think if we look deep into the science of that within ourselves and within the group, we can do better. We can do better. As humanity, we can do better. Because, when we think of humanity as a group being, parts of us are fully alive in certain things, and parts of us are in other things. But, Tibetan says, raising the dead body of humanity. That's the goal. And starting with our own quote unquote dead bodies, whatever it is, whatever doesn't allow life through. You know, loved, nurtured, back to health. You know, sometimes detached, but still with gratitude for service that it's done. Like the old body, you know, when the person dies, you know, we honor the body for the service it, you know, put that person through, carried and served in a way. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Katya.
Are there any more impressions you would like to share before we go to meditation? Please.
I can shortly add that all of the processes that we were mentioning, all of them, they require courage, love, and willing to suffer, not to suffer, willing to accept the pain aspect of those changes. And it all together can be named a cost associated with that. So it's good for, I believe it's good for us to recognize that need and request the support of those actions with the extra energy and extra love and extra will to love as we go, as we move on our journey, as we tread our path. Right?
I would like to add something, if I might. Also, that I think we're aware that the difference between the Piscean age and the Aquarian. In the Piscean age, there was intuitive contact, but it came through the emotions, down into the emotions, and sometimes brought great good and sometimes terrible evil by the time it was translated, and by people. And I think the work we're doing now, the studying we're doing and meditating, and the focus on mind is so important, that the intuition is brought through the mind first before it can travel into the down into the actual, into emotional reality or physical reality. The mind is, and the training somebody mentioned is so important. Judy, I think you did, in the study and training, because it's the mind that can translate more accurately and apply things more rationally to what is actually needed, what comes through the intuition in a balanced way, if we develop our minds. Thank you. Blessings, everybody.
Just want to add one more phrase that really resonated for me this month. That Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And so thinking about its height and depth, one of the answers to the question what depth means is that living in a physical reality it's inevitable pain. But holding the high point of consciousness while we are in the midst of this pain is, in a way, it's avoiding suffering. When we hold that soul consciousness in the midst of all the chaos.
But pain can bring understanding at that highest point, which is, I think, what you're saying, Alexander. You can choose to suffer, or you can choose to observe and understand and try to recognize something that is being learned from that pain.
Shit.
So we are now moving to our meditation, which Aneta will lead us to. Over to you, Aneta.
Thank you very much for all the wise comments. The topic is the principle of sharing. Let the will to love remove all obstacles of the free flow of life in microcosm and macrocosmos. So let us move into silence and become aware of the stillness within. Align with your heart, your ashna and soul. And from your soul, link with the group heart, the group mind, and the group soul. The heightened vibration and love that we hold within our group now draws the presence of higher vibrational beings who are here to guide and assist the energy and thought forms we will be magnetizing. Let us now connect with the hierarchy through our group Antakarana as we link the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. Visualize before us the glowing beauty of our chalice, which our work together feeds and fills. This golden chalice is made of numerous threads of golden light, which have been energized through our group contemplation, impressions, thoughts, and heartfelt unity. We are currently under the influence of Taurus in a flux of continuous glowing change, morphing from the inflow and outflow of its energy. Taurus in the undeveloped man is selfish desire, the light of earth. In the advanced man, it is aspiration, the light of love. In disciples and initiates, illumined living, the light of life. Taurus rushes blindly until Sagittarius directs. And this is from Esoteric Astrology, page 332. Taurus is the penetrating light of the path. This is a beam of light streaming forth from the point in areas and revealing the area of light control. The soul says, I see, and when the eye is opened, all is illumined. So let us reconnect with our topic, the principle of sharing, that the will to love remove all obstacles of the free flow of life in microcosmos and macrocosmos. And take a few moments in silence to reflect on all we have been shared together, including our responses. We ask the hierarchy to guide and inspire us as we allow our thoughts to crystallize, grasping the essence of the purpose of our work throughout this cycle. And with love, we offer our efforts into the chalice, each one unmuting and speaking as you are moved to. We also honor those who choose not to speak, but who silently offer their formulated seeds into the chalice. After each vocalized offering, we will allow each seed to rest in silence for a while before the next one is offered. Let us now begin.
I have a question to offer. We've been told in the Blue Books that the work of the new group of world servers is to meditate and bring forth thoughts that will help the world. And I wonder, since the conclave, if that has changed at all or been adjusted, or how it has changed.
The seed thoughts into the chalice. Let the light of Taurus help to remove obstacles in Scorpio, to recognize the path forward in Sagittarius.
Intuition is coming from the Buddhic plane and from the soul. It often comes when we are not thinking, as answer to a problem we have raised earlier. It often comes as illumination, as an aha experience that seems true without question.
Become the wisdom of the soul, that intuition in conscious action, and share by example.
Serve through manifesting love and radiating light, and thereby building consciousness into form.
Recognizing the oneness of all beings on all planes.
Joy, joy, a special wisdom, a sprinkling of joy.
The light of Taurus and the light of the soul revitalize and bring forth the livingness. And liberate the mind.
In Taurus, as a group, we stand in the penetrating light of the path and become the rainbow bridge.
Are there more seeds to the chalice? We focus on the purpose of our work today and the seeds collected, allowing them to vibrate and resonate within the embracing light of our group vessel. We magnetize it now with the light of Taurus as we invoke the will to good to potentiate our group intention. We lift our group chalice, offering it to the hierarchy as our group service on behalf of the one divine plan. We now turn towards humanity and offer our service in support of the collective evolution of humankind. Let us now close our work as we identify with the soul in all and apply our efforts to be in accordance with divine will. We now send forth the results of our efforts, thoughts, love, and the energy of our group work to help our Earth in all its diversity and ultimate unity through its transformational journey into the sacred. We do this through focused direction of energy from our group asana, sending the light out to higher beings, to other spiritual groups, to the soul of humanity, and to all sentient beings as we assist the forces of light. And in conclusion, we seal and complete our work together today by sounding the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call humanity, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you, everyone.